بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty accepts our good and forgives our evil, protects us from kulli su' makruh, rectifies our condition and affairs, strengthens us all in Iman, Islam, Taqwa, piety, ilm, wa hikmah. Ayyul ahbab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with us being weak. We have tendencies, we have inclinations of weakness, that we're not always our best selves. We're not always moving forward and reacting logically. But as human beings, we're much more complex. And we have whims and desires, and we follow those things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says في كتاب الكريم زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبَّ الشَّهَوَاتِ, that it has been beautified for people the love of desires. We love desires. And Allah mentions things from wealth and children and to compete and the various types of wealth, gold and silver in that ayah. And this shows that we have desires, we have inclinations that we have to struggle to control. We have to control ourselves from just following our whims and desires. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says في كتاب المبين خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, that and man was created weak. Al-Hafiz ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatan wasiya, he commented on this ayat. He says this is why it is suitable that the commands are made easy for the human being, because of his weakness, feebleness, and lack of determination. Andr ila hada. Al-Hafiz ibn Kathir is very beautifully articulating the fact that we are ajiz, we're weak. And sometimes we're incompetent. Sometimes we're incapable. And we follow our desires. And sometimes we have a lack of azima, determination. And that can manifest itself in many ways, even when it comes to coming back to Allah, making tawbah, when it comes to many actions that we may not have the azima, the determination to fulfill what we know is best. We know this. We understand we should be making tawbah. We understand we shouldn't be doing sin. But due to our weakness, we choose that way. And in the first part of that verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَنْ يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ, that Allah wishes to lighten the burden for you. Imam As-Sa'di mentioned, he says, Allah has lightened his commands and prohibitions. However, there is hardship in some commands. He permitted what need requires, such as eating the dead animal or blood in severe hunger and marrying a slave woman to a free man. All of this was made lawful owing to his complete mercy and knowledge of man's pervasive weakness in regard to physical state, determination, iman, and patience, meaning that we are impatient creatures and we are weak and feeble and we are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our niyyah, our intention changes, and sometimes we have a strong intention to do that which is right and do that which is good and the determination to do righteousness, and sometimes we are ba'id, we're far from that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says fi kitabi al-mubin, which means Allah is He who created you in a state of weakness, then gave you strength after weakness, then after strength gave you weakness and gray hair. Al-Allama Ash-Shanqiti rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatan wasiya, he states about this verse, he says, Allah, glorified be He, has clarified man's initial weakness in creation in various verses of His book. He clarified man's eventual weakness in other verses. The first weakness is mentioned in the following verses, which mean, did we not create you from a despised water? And where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِن نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ. And he has created man from nutfa. Then behold, this same man becomes an open opponent. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, which means fi kitabil kareem, does not man see that we have created him from nutfa? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says fi kitabil mubin, which means, so let man see from what he is created from water gushing forth. And Allah Azza wa Jal says fi kitabil mubin, which means, no, that is not like that. Verily we have created them out of that which they know. And there are many of other verses addressing this issue. The other weakness is mentioned in the following verses, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِدُ إِلَىٰ أَرْضِ الْعُمْرِ مَنْ يُرَدَّ إِلَىٰ أَرْضِ الْعُمْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and of you there are some who are sent back to being senile. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, which means, and he whom we grant long life, we reverse him in creation. Will they not then understand? Moreover, there's a reference to the strength that occupies a person in the middle position between these two weaknesses. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, which means, then behold, the same man becomes an open opponent. So that means mankind is intrinsically weak. And as a last statement, Shaykh al-Islam ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi, he points out the fact, he says the correct view is that a human's weakness comprises all the following aspects: physical appearance, determination, knowledge, and patience, besides vulnerability to defects. Therefore, one is always in a desperate need of a supporter who confers power and assistance on him if he lacks this aid. Loss is inevitable. Interestingly, his creation in this state is an advantage because it requires gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a sign of Allah's wisdom and might, and whatever comes from this of creation is considered good, just, and wise in relation to Allah. So it lets us know, ayyul ahbab, that although we're weak, that weakness necessitates that we turn to Allah, that we depend upon Allah, that we ask and implore Allah, that we understand that we're ajiz, that we're weak, and that we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything we do, for guidance, for sustenance, for our daily living. Naam. Lastly, ahabati fillah, understanding that we are weak, we're frail, we make mistakes, we commit sins, we follow our desires, and we have desires, and we were created like this, and we were created with these inclinations. It's very important for us, I think most of us, we realize this, but do we take advantage of that knowledge and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and come back to Allah and ask Allah for assistance and help and support and His favor while we're in this state of weakness, which is until the grave. We are born in weakness, we will return to weakness. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And we will all meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on this journey of life, it's imperative that we strive to do those things which please Allah and remove ourselves from His displeasure and His wrath and anger. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.